The story follows a family of four: Richard, the father; Susan, the mother; Jessie, the older sister; and Sam, the younger brother. They are on their way to a remote island in Sweden for a long-awaited vacation. The timing feels perfect. The island is preparing for a traditional celebration that only happens once every 10 years. Richard and his family are excited and ready to enjoy the trip. They arrive at the dock to catch the ferry and decide to grab a quick meal at a small restaurant nearby. While Richard and Susan are ordering food, Jesse and Sam wander behind the building and stumble upon a disturbing sight: a decapitated pigeon lying on the ground. They have no idea who could have done something like that. After finishing their meal, the restaurant owner clears their table and casually asks where they are headed. The moment Susan mentions the name Svalta, he freezes. The plates slip from his hands and shatter on the floor. It is clear that the name alone unsettles him. Realizing the family is planning to visit Svalta, he becomes even more alarmed. He knows the stories and the mystery surrounding the island. In his words, strangers are never welcome there. As Richard goes to pay the bill, the owner tries to warn him. He tells Richard not to go during the festival because it is not the kind of celebration people imagine. Richard, however, stays polite and insists they will continue with their plan.
What are you doing? You're hurting me.
Don't get on that ferry. Take your nice family and get back into your hired car and fuck off.
Some warnings are not meant to be ignored. This is Getaway. Just as they are about to board the ferry, Richard realizes he left his wallet behind and rushes back to retrieve it. Once they are finally on the ferry, every passenger stares at them with unsettling expressions. It is as if no one wants this family to step foot on Svalta. Whatever event is taking place there, it clearly is not the usual cheerful festival tourists expect. Still, Richard and his family brush it off and keep their spirits high. When they reach Svalta, the same cold stares greet them again. These passengers are all locals, and none of them seem pleased to have outsiders arriving. Soon after, an elderly woman appears. She is Ellie, the leader of the community, and she tells them that the festival is strictly for island residents. Outsiders are not allowed to take part. She urges them to leave the island immediately.
Great-great-great-grandfather actually died here on this island on Svalta.
You will leave this place one way or another.
Before they can react, a local tour guide named Matt shows up. He has been in contact with Richard beforehand and offers a completely different tone. Instead of pushing them away, he welcomes them and explains that he has rented out his late mother's house for their stay. This becomes the place where the family will be living during their trip. It looks decent and comfortable enough. As Jessie explores the bedroom, Matt suddenly appears behind her. His presence feels strange, even unsettling, but Richard and his family do not think much of it. Night falls and the atmosphere inside the house shifts the moment the lights go out. Richard and Susan wake up to a strange glow coming from outside. When they look out the window, they see the island residents standing in front of the house holding torches. One of them is even wearing a frightening mask. Instead of calming down, the group leaves a dead animal on the doorstep as some kind of offering. Whatever the meaning is, it is far from comforting. The next morning, Richard heads to Matt's place to ask about the disturbing gift from the night before. Matt explains that it is considered a traditional welcome on Svalta and tells Richard not to worry too much about it. Later that day, the family explores the island, looking for nice spots to take photos. What they do not realize is that a bald man named Johan is watching them from a distance. At the same time, back at the restaurant they visited earlier, police officers are investigating the owner's body. He has been found dead under brutal circumstances. Suspecting the killer might be someone from Svalta, a police detective heads to the island to investigate. He arrives while Ellie and several locals are rehearsing a traditional play for the upcoming celebration. Records suggest that Johan is the prime suspect because of his past behavior. But Ellie claims she has no idea where he is and asks the detective to leave, saying he is interrupting their preparations. The scene shifts to Sam and Jesse visiting a small cafe owned by a young man named Paul, who never seems to smile. He makes it clear that outsiders are not welcome. Soon, 3 other locals arrive and drag the 2 siblings out of the cafe. Outside, more residents appear, dressed in robes and masks, standing beside 4 coffins whose purpose remains unclear. Their eerie laughter unsettles Sam and Jesse, who quickly decide to leave. The story then moves back to the house where Matt is revealed lying in Jesse's room while wearing her underwear. Jesse notices her missing clothing and approaches the mirror, trying to clear the fog on the glass. She does not realize it is a 2-way mirror, and on the other side, Matt is pressed against it, watching her and licking the surface. That night, inside the community hall on Svalta Island, Ellie stands before the gathered residents, preparing them for the big celebration coming the next day. This is where the truth finally comes out. The festival they have been preparing for is actually a tradition passed down for generations. It commemorates the massacre of their ancestors by British soldiers almost 200 years ago. The shocking part is what happened afterward. Driven by starvation, the surviving islanders turned to cannibalism. Their chosen targets were people of British descent, which happens to include Richard and his entire family. For decades, the people of Savalta have abandoned this gruesome practice. They honor the memory of their ancestors through a theatrical performance instead. But when Richard and his family arrived on the island and insisted on staying, something inside Ellie awakened. The old hunger returned, and she decided that the 4 newcomers would be their feast. Many of the residents agreed. Ellie even visits Matt to bring him into the plan. Matt hesitates at first. His only intention had been to make money by renting out his mother's house. But his growing obsession with Jesse blinds him, and he eventually agrees to take part in the scheme. The next day, the entire village gathers to watch the traditional play. Once the performance ends, they plan to hunt Richard and his family and serve them as the main course for the celebration. At the same time, Matt begins his part of the plan. He offers the family a batch of cookies laced with sedatives. They hesitate at first because the cookies look unappealing, but after a long day of swimming in the cold water, they decide to try them. Later, when the family appears to be asleep, Matt sneaks in to make sure the drugs have taken effect. Ellie is still busy with the festival performance, unaware of what he is doing. Matt prepares to act on his disturbing intentions toward Jesse, but everything goes wrong for him. Jesse is still awake, and the entire family reveals they never ate the cookies at all. This is the moment the truth flips. The family is not the helpless victim we expected. Richard, Susan, Sam, and Jesse are the real monsters. They are psychopathic killers who came to the island intentionally, choosing a remote and isolated place where no one would interfere. They ambush Matt and kill him without hesitation. From there, the nightmare only grows worse. The 4 of them begin slaughtering the islanders one by one. The residents have no idea how dangerous this family truly is. Instead of hunting the newcomers, Ellie and the villagers end up running for their lives as Richard and his so-called family tear through the community with brutal force. In the end, it becomes painfully clear. The people of Savalta chose the wrong victims, and now they are paying the price. Later that night, Jesse and Sam make their way to the communications center at the harbor. Their goal is simple: stop the staff from contacting anyone outside the island. This is where their true nature becomes impossible to ignore. Both of them slip effortlessly into an act, pretending to be terrified and in need of help. The worker believes them, completely unaware of the danger standing right in front of her. The moment she lets her guard down, Jesse and Sam attack and kill her without hesitation. Not long after, a local resident arrives at the same office. He grabs a flare gun and fires a signal into the sky, hoping someone beyond the island will see it and send help. The distress signal reaches the authorities, and while the police begin their response, Richard and his so-called family continue their hunt. This time their targets are Ellie and the remaining villagers who have taken shelter in a storage building. A brutal chase follows. Richard even takes a knife to the cheek, but the injury barely slows him down. He and the others break through the door and force their way inside. As the chaos unfolds, Paul shows up, trying to intervene or warn someone. Richard kills him instantly. Once the attackers are finished, Ellie and her husband manage to escape through a hidden path. They do not see the killers clearly, but Ellie refuses to abandon the island. She convinces her husband to stay and wait for a chance to fight back. Meanwhile, Richard and the group take a break around a campfire, enjoying the moment in their own twisted way. Without warning, Richard turns on Sam and stabs him in the neck. It becomes clear why. They were never a real family. They are a group of psychopaths who happened to meet, then pretended to be a family whenever it suited their plans. This is far from their first massacre. They have switched partners and roles many times and carried out similar acts around the world. And because Sam has become more of a problem than an asset, Richard eliminates him once their rampage on the island is nearly complete. Just as the detective arrives on the island and witnesses the horrifying chaos, Richard and the remaining members of his fake family head to Matt's house. There they make a disturbing discovery. Matt has been spying on them the entire time through hidden cameras. While they are processing this, Ellie and her husband appear outside. Jesse volunteers to handle it alone. She steps outside and pretends to be a terrified survivor, playing the role flawlessly. But things do not go the way she expects. Ellie shoots her in the stomach, although the wound is not fatal. Ellie and her husband still have no idea that Richard, Susan, and Jesse are the true killers behind the massacre. Jesse quickly switches back into character and convinces them that Matt is the culprit. Ellie's husband decides to check the bedroom where Matt is supposed to be. Instead, he walks straight into a trap and is killed by Richard, who has been pretending to lie unconscious on the bed. Meanwhile, Susan approaches Jesse and continues her role as the concerned mother. Richard joins them soon after, and the three killers drop their act entirely. Ellie finally sees their true nature and reacts in shock. She grabs a knife, desperate to fight back, but before she can strike, a gunshot comes out of nowhere. The detective fires the shot, killing Ellie on the spot. He believes she is the murderer responsible for everything that has happened. And luck seems to be on the side of psychopaths once again. Richard, Susan, and Jesse are immediately treated as victims and escorted off the island. At the same time, Johan is shot dead by the arriving police force, becoming yet another misplaced casualty in the chaos. In the end, Richard, Susan, and Jesse survive the night. They leave Svalta unharmed, free to continue their violent spree in whatever place they choose next. So the moral of the story is, if a creepy island full of masked weirdos tells you to go home, maybe listen, unless you are the bigger weirdo.